All right, so this is all about what was happening in the elections and the foreign interference. And the way that I see this, at least the lens I'm looking through, it doesn't look like it was taken seriously. The threats completely disregarded. And it was months looking into this. And then they're like, well, what we handled there, they weren't threats. I do believe that this should have been who was in charge of this, wore a uniform, and was a intelligence officer or a CSIS officer at least, that deals with these threats all the time. This just seems, I'm very shocked. Leave your comments below. Just tell me what you think. Just check this out.
Rapid response in order to counter disinformation. Particularly in the context of elections, it's important that that information be shared as close to real time as possible. Would you concur with that?
Well, actually, our objective isn't to counter disinformation. Our objective is to understand the information environment and the tactics that are being used, and then to shed light on those tactics and amplify
certainly
and
part of your mandate is to make that information known, is it not?
Yes, it is, which we did do in August.
It is, and if it takes 2 months to detect and make public disinformation, as was the case in this instance, then how can Canadians have any confidence in the RRM in the context of an election or in the lead up to the issuance of a writ?
Well, I think actually this was an illustration actually of an ability for the RRM to bring information forward, to do the thorough research that's required to understand the tactics at play, and then to share them with Canadians and to make the MP aware. So I understand that some of the nuancing of needing to make sure that any research is done is thorough, because you actually want to make sure that what you're putting in public has been thoroughly researched. So in our perspective, it was actually a positive story that the RRM was able to map it, was able to bring that forward, was able to bring put it in the Canadian public, and also talk to the parent company of WeChat.
Well, I would submit that a 2-month window is too long, and that the RRM has some work to do to actually deliver a rapid response to disinformation.
I'll give you the 30 seconds. He has 30 seconds, but I just want to say, I'll pause real quick.
And that's not all, folks. Here we have the second Conservative MP ask a couple questions, and he has the same, astounded look on his face. How could you not see this at all of a threat? Now, just look at in Arkansas, the governor Huckabee, God love her, she just made a shocking announcement. If a Chinese company owns land, they are out of the country. They're giving 2 years for them to divest. This is breaking news. You'll see it everywhere by tomorrow. Check this out.
When we are actually having an opportunity to ask questions and answer questions, and we're on a good kind of pathway, I will then not be as tight. But it's when we are interrupting each other that I just want it to be over. But when it is, as I think that was quite civil and it was informative, I will then be generous with time. Mr. Calkins, if you want to take the 30 seconds, go ahead.
On a follow-up to one of your response to Mr. Cooper's question, you said that no action was taken and you waited until the by-elections were over. If the purpose is to interdict activities that are going to change the outcome of an election, why would the policy be or the protocol be to wait until the election is over before advising anybody? Is it because Michael Chong wasn't directly involved in the by-election process, or I'm confused about the priority?
So just to clarify, the activity itself, the information campaign, was in no way related to the by-election. Okay, so we were mandated to look at the by-election and to find if there was any indications of foreign interference, which we did not find any. However, in the information environment, as we were looking at the by-election, is when we actually discovered this campaign that had already been completed. It was time-bound between May 4th and May 13th. But of course, in the information environment, you can still find information post facto. So we did find it at that time, but it was not related to the by-election at all. So at that point, our objective was to understand that tactic, to understand the environment, and to make that public if we could.
Thank you. Mrs. Romanetto, 6 minutes through the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to the witness, thank you again for joining us. It's a pleasure to hear from you again. This has actually been very helpful because you've identified actually how it worked. And I actually think it's an improvement from what we saw in the 2021 election. So,
well, I mean, there seems to be a confusion between. Well, I mean, they.